called the First Step Act. It has allowed dangerous people out of prison.
This is the only good policy Trump had, dude. Are you
Was that
serious?
the non-violent offenders?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pardoning like marijuana crimes,
Mm-hmm.
non-violent marijuana crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like
He's a
running on
prosecutor. What do you
putting people
expect?
back in prison for weed.
Mhm. Yeah, he's a prosecutor. What do you expect?
Oh yeah, that's right. He was.
Scum.
I mean, this is the type of guy who saw people tortured and like talked about the legal methods on how to do it and get away with it. You know?
Yeah.
This is the U.S. intelligence agency, Mind Control.
I think this is DeSantis' first media appearance since, obviously the Twitter thing, but I don't count that as a media appearance. That's a joke. I think it's interesting that it's been his first because also like we've seen a lot of stuff with the Republican Jewish like coalition and Ben in Florida there too, like working with that coalition. They already have been working together on promoting his campaign. So I'm sure that Ben Shapiro knew DeSantis was going to do a lot of things.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Shapiro got hired on his staff if he.
Oh, I wouldn't say hired on his staff, but just that he was a press guy who like could have leaked information if he really wanted to. And that is a very powerful coalition on the Republican side.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I mean it's like the Zionist coalition.
Yeah.
So
joining us on the show is Governor.
And it's not like actually, it's like they're in like I think 49 or 48 of the states.
Interesting.
I don't remember what exactly it's called. It's the Republican Jewish something.
Ron DeSantis, he has freshly announced his 2024 presidential campaign. Governor DeSantis, thanks for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
Hey, congratulations on the new baby, Ben.
I really appreciate that. So sweet of you. And we say hello to Casey as well. So why don't we talk about the first 24 hours of this campaign? How you think it's going
here?
Yeah, they're pretty.
This is so canned.
That's such a fucking.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is a recording that he's talking to. Listen to how canned this conversation is.
2024 presidential campaign. Governor DeSantis, thanks for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
Hey, congratulations on the new baby, Ben.
I really appreciate that. So sweet of you. And we say hello to Casey as well. So why don't we talk about...
That is a person who's pretending to be on the phone with somebody.
That's so
quality
weird.
Of response, right?
That's so weird.
Are you feeling that?
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's so weird.
You know what he looks like to me?
A Jew?
No. His villain archetype energy.
So long, Bowser. About the first 24 hours of this campaign, how you think it's gone so far. Obviously, there were some technical snafus, what with Twitter Spaces, but there were tons of people watching. 700,000 people were trying to log on at the very beginning. These are big numbers.
Okay. And then nobody watched the second one.
This is exactly what we predicted, is what they were going to say, is that Ron DeSantis broke the internet. And even if what did he say, 7,000 people? 7,000 people were trying to log on at once and it was crashing? Is that
700,000?
700,000. Okay. Okay. AOC Among Us stream. Looks like 400,000 to watch AOC play Among Us. And then obviously there's like congruent streams, right?
Yeah. Over multiple platforms, it was probably more.
Oh, it's concurrent viewers. Does that mean at the same time?
No, concurrent is yeah. Sorry, that is consistent viewers.
Okay.
Look for the peak.
Oh, I don't know. That was such a smart thing to do for her campaign, because she was promoting like her entire party line. Because if you vote for in New York, we call it working families. It's technically what I vote for as far as when I vote like inside shit that matters. Because like I never vote main party for president because it doesn't matter there. But like I always go the working families line because that's the communist line here. 700,000 for a presidential announcement is pretty weak.
Actually, talking to some on Twitter, there are actually many more who couldn't even get to that part of the queue. And so it caused their system to basically melt down. And they've never seen anything like it. So I think there was a huge amount of interest. Part of the reason we did do it this way is because we figured with Elon involved, that would reach a wider range of people than would just do a traditional campaign rally. And so there was a lot of buzz generated for those who've been able to watch it. I think.
Was there?
Bro, everyone called you a failure. Trump, even Biden got a clown on him, bro.
Yeah, he did. Bro. Our link works.
Like across all the different ones that have it, I think it's over 9 million between the live stream
this
and between
David
way
Sachs' one. He looks like a man really significant.
You know, obviously I made the announcement. I did a little bit of a riff to start, but then a lot of it was just talking about the issues facing the country and being able to answer questions that people had. We need to do more of that in this country. You know, we're not here to be entertainers. We're here to be leaders. And ultimately, a leader is measured by what kind of results.
If you can't tie a tie and you're running for any fucking office, I mean, you don't deserve to be in office. Bro, it's not that hard. You missed one step.
You can have a guy to tie your ties for you.
Yeah, no shit. Or just pre-tie your fucking ties. It's really not that hard.
Trump wears the same clothes every day. He smells like a swamp.
Able to deliver. We've delivered great results in Florida because we focused on what matters to the people of the state. And I think we'd bring that same know-how to Washington to focus on what matters to the people of the United States.
So Governor DeSantis, obviously Joe Biden has been doing a rather poor job. You're running to replace him, but standing in your way is a formidable rival. Former President Trump is the first Republican candidate to declare. So far, nobody's really laid a glove on him or drawn a strong contrast between themselves and President Trump. In sort of the national polling, he's up pretty significantly. So how do you see a difference between your candidacy, what you've been trying to do, your record, and President Trump?
Well, I think it's interesting because he's been attacking me by moving left. So this is a different guy than 2015, 2016. He attacked me for opposing an amnesty bill in the Congress. He did support this amnesty, this good lot too. 2 million illegal aliens he wanted to amnesty. I opposed it because that's what America First principles dictate, that you're opposed to amnesty. He also attacked me for voting against an omnibus spending bill that was bloated, full of pork, and that racked up huge amount of debt for this country. Yes, I voted against the omnibus. He signed every omnibus that was put on his desk. And so I think it's odd that he's doubling down on those positions, because those were instances in which his actions did not match his campaign rhetoric. And I also think just the difference between 2015 and 16 and now is I, as chief executive of Florida, and he as chief executive of the United States, we both faced COVID-19, and we both responded in the way we did. He responded by elevating Anthony Fauci and really turning the reins over to Dr.
That's awesome. Like, what a great populist comeback, dude. Oh my God. Now blame Trump for Fauci after they've been programmed to hate him for like 2 years now.
Dr. Fauci, and I think to terrible consequences for the United States. I was the leader in this country in fighting back against Fauci. We bucked him every step of the way, starting in April of 2020, whether it's the schools, the businesses, the mandates, and our state has never done better as a result. We're number one in migration, number one for growth, and we continue to see great things happen. So, but it required me to cut against the grain. It required me to know that every decision I made was going to be met with opposition from the media and from the left. But you do what's right, and you don't let.
You're on the media.
I love how they think Ben Shapiro isn't the media, even though the Daily Wire is.
You're on the media. The media is platforming you.
It's insane.
What do you mean?
They have no clue what they're talking about.
A pushback from the left. Okay. Well, isn't the left even Trump now? Didn't he just say that? Okay, so everyone doesn't like you. Got it.
Let them cow you. And so I think Fauci should have been fired. And I think the fact that Donald Trump gave Anthony Fauci a presidential commendation on Trump's last day in office, that was a gut punch to millions of people around this country who were harmed by Fauci's lockdowns.
Yeah, Governor DeSantis, today, the president actually attacked you by...
Bro, he was the dude recommending shit. It was everyone's job to just say no. Of course he's going to have the most extreme recommendations. That's like the point. Like, obviously, that's how advisors and policies work. Is they're going to give you the most extreme, one-sided, their belief recommendation, and then you decide. This is how our bureaucracy functions.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there was a nationwide COVID lockdown type policy that came from the federal office, imagine how disastrous that would be. You just can't do that. Not in this country.
Suggesting that Andrew Cuomo had done.
It would be the same as if the EU passed a policy for every nation on how they had to manage lockdown. That would be insane. That would break the EU.
It would.
Better job in New York, which is sort of a shocking thing coming from a president who's declared that he is the enemy of the left when it comes to COVID. Andrew Cuomo, of course, did not do a better job. He's been citing statistics suggesting using sort of absolute numbers of people.
Okay, so Trump loves this. He doesn't do the statistics by, he doesn't do the adjusted statistics like per 1 in 1,000, or 100,000, So he does the absolute value. So he goes by the population number. So because more people died by population in Florida, I guess, than New York.
I think no, Texas. I think no.
So that's what
New York, Florida, right?
That's Trump's main way to slander him, though, is by saying that he's using that. It's the same thing he did with the Access media, where he's like, no, I have the charts here. It's the same thing. It's the same strategy.
People who died per state, as
he's using the statistics that benefit him the most.
To looking at population adjusted, which of course seems deeply dishonest just on a statistical level. What's your take on those attacks?
They're very bizarre. I mean, first of all, Florida had less excess mortality than California or New York. Part of that is because states like California had excess mortality derived from the lockdown policies.
You have excess mortality because you're Florida, and that's where old people go to die. So of course your excess
literally what happened, yeah. And it would have spiked at the start, right? I guarantee if you look at Florida's numbers, it would have spiked heavy at the start and then come way down because all the olds died.
Which is really, really avoidable mortality. But if he thinks Cuomo handled it better, that's an indication if something like this were to happen again, he would double down and do what he did in March of 2020. That was a difficult situation. We didn't have all the facts, and people can kind of understand, if you did things that may not have worked out. But we all have to sit here today in 2023,
they're trying to use
look back at March of 2020 and say Fauciism was wrong.
So Trump obviously said that to insult you, that Andrew Cuomo was better because Andrew Cuomo is the worst. That's clearly saying that to insult you and take an extreme position. So he's repelling back with logic, being like, oh, if he really likes Andrew Cuomo more than me, doesn't that tell you something about him? Sounds like he's a lefty to me.
Fauciism was destructive. Fauciism has set us on this path with the CARES Act and the Fed printing money, creating inflation, and creating some of the economic problems that we have today. So if you could do it again, would he do the same thing? I sure hope not, because those were not the right decisions to make. And I've said
You can't just say magical words like Fauciism that don't mean anything and then blame it for other things that are nuanced, like inflation.
Yeah.
The only issue we have, you could easily, if you didn't want to use imaginary words and stuff like that, I'll do it right now, right? Because of Fauci's policies, businesses lost a lot of money. And now, because we're in a free market and businesses can control their supply and demand, they're raising prices. And we now have to be in a position where it's are we going to regulate businesses because inflations are out of control? Look at what he's done to our market.
It's way better. Stop giving me ideas.
Very clearly, if I'm president, somebody like Fauci is in the government, I will bring them in and I will tell them two things. You are fired.
He's been suggesting that there are high crime rates in the state of Florida. Obviously, he speaks as a sort of law and order candidate. But, we were all present for 2020, and the National Guard was not deployed despite massive rioting in America's major cities. You, as governor of Florida, actually took some pretty strong positions on crime, up to and including providing stipends for incoming police officers. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Well, first of all, Florida's crime rate is at a 50-year low. That's just a fact. And it hit a 50-year low during my administration, but a lot of that is because local people, local government, local law enforcement have done a good job. But it's hit a 50-year low
because of COVID. It's hit a 50-year low because of COVID.
What should go back up?
While crime has been spiking in other places around the country. So we're counter trend for what's been happening in the United States. One of the main reasons families have moved to Florida since I've been governor is because of public safety, because they know we're a law and order state. So that's delusional to say that somehow Florida, has bad crime. And you can see that in the migration patterns. People are leaving high crime areas and they're coming here. When the Floyd riots were going on in Minneapolis, I called out the National Guard in Florida immediately. I had state law enforcement deployed. We work with our local partners. We said very clearly, you're not burning cities down here. We'll put a stop to it if it happens. And sure enough, it didn't end up happening. We've also enacted legislation to crack down on rioters with tougher penalties and to prevent local governments from defunding the police. But I think one of the things that we've seen is, under the Trump administration, he enacted a bill, basically a jailbreak bill. It's called the First Step Act. It has allowed dangerous people out of prison.
This is the only good policy Trump had, dude. Are you
Was
serious?
that the nonviolent offenders?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pardoning like marijuana crimes,
Mm-hmm.
nonviolent marijuana crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like
He's a
running on
prosecutor. What do you
putting people
expect?
back in prison for weed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a prosecutor. What do you expect?
Oh yeah, that's right. He was.
Scum.
I mean, this is the type of guy who saw people tortured and like talked about the legal methods on how to do it and get away with it. You know?
Yeah.
Who have now reoffended and really, really hurt a number of.
Again, this whole reoffended thing, it's so hard to get out of prison because they make you do all these classes and all this shit. It's not necessarily reoffended, but you can violate parole, things like that. Or
by not going to a class, yeah.
Or, or they just failed a drug test.
Yeah.
Of people. So one of the things I would want to do as president is go to Congress and seek the repeal of the First Step Act. If you are in jail, you should serve your time. And the idea that they're releasing people who have not been rehabilitated early so that they can prey on people in our society is a huge, huge mistake.
So Governor DeSantis, one of the big questions that comes up in the presidential election, happened in 2020, I'm sure it'll happen again in 2024, is Donald Trump.
Okay, this is just Wikipedia, of course, right? So I got violent crime rates, right? A violent crime rate of 300 in a population of 100 would mean 300 incidents. Okay, so yes, the percent is higher, just checking. If it's higher, it's worse. I wonder what he means by it being at a low, because this looks really bad. I mean, like, what's higher here? Like, what has higher than Florida? Delaware. Oh, Joe Biden's state. Aha! Got him there, fuckers. Nevada, that makes sense.
What's the highest?
It looks like it's DC is going to be the highest. But that's because of how DC is. It's not a state. New Mexico, that makes sense.
Tennessee, interesting.
Tennessee is an interesting one as well. I agree. All red states. Uh-oh. So Alaska, that's because of population, of course, right? That the Alaska and Wyoming skew statistics for our state.
Yeah, because it's per 100,000.
New Mexico has a low population too, which makes sense. But also, New Mexico has a lot, like El Paso has a lot of problems. But most of these are southern states. Uh-oh. The conspiracy is unraveling. Democrats have better, crime policies. Crime is lower in Democrat cities. Uh-oh. Basic statistics when you read them correctly. When you don't read the chart backwards. Like, where's Wyoming? Maine is a pretty low population as well. Puerto Rico's on here. Good for them. Puerto Rico's way low. We should add them as a state. Look at how nice.
New Jersey. Interesting.
Look how great the citizens of Puerto Rico are.
Statehood for Puerto Rico.
There's Wyoming. So Wyoming's down here. So Wyoming that's pretty good considering how the population skews and how, because they're like at the top for like gun deaths and gun statistics.
Yes.
With Alaska. New Jersey being this low, that's surprising. That's cool for New Jersey.
Good for them.
Minnesota, really low, even with all the communists in there. Mississippi's low too.
Kentucky too.
Oregon, that's where Portland is, where all the riots are. All riots in all these places, riots.
Oh, look at the Mormons don't commit much crime. Good for them.
So Florida's not in the top half, at least. They're just out of the top half. Also, if you look at the average rate, so they're 3.83. The average rate is 3.98. So they're at least below the average rate as well. We can say that these are positive statistics. We could say if we want the crime look better than it is.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like New York being just below it. Like where's what's Illinois? That's what I'm looking for. Illinois has been pretty stable. Illinois doesn't surprise me.
Michigan's up there too.
Texas, California don't surprise me. Nevada doesn't surprise me. Oklahoma does. Michigan kind of does. The South Dakota does.
South Carolina
being really, really high up.
Interesting.
That is interesting. See, that's like I would expect this to be on par with New Jersey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, South Carolina being up there is kind of strange.
No, also, like if you can sort it by count, let's like sort by count.
But we also have to.
Oh, if you sort by counts, Florida's the third worst, huh? This is how Trump would do it. This is how Trump would look at it. But also, it's like it turns them really dark red when they're really bad too. Vermont by count. Alaska's still not on the bottom by count. There they are at 40. Puerto Rico is still low when it's done by count. Maine is still low by count. New Hampshire is still low by count. It's crazy that there's South Dakota, they're low by count, but like North Dakota and South Dakota are so different. They're like literally, I thought they were the same thing. You know. Anyway, so now that we understand that red states are worse at crime.
Trump claims that the 2020 election was rigged, and this raises a question: even if you believe that that's true, how do you plan to reverse that sort of thing? If you're worried that the voting rules have changed, how do you plan to actually win, given the fact that 2020 didn't go the way that Donald Trump wanted it to go? Well, you obviously, in the state of Florida, took a very different tack, and you can see the result.
They should just be saying that he cheated. If DeSantis responds, will be like, yeah, well, Trump can say that, but we'll see what happens in Georgia when we can see that he was knowingly like rigging the election in his favor. And honestly, we can just tell that people didn't even like this candidate. He was cheating and he still lost.
Results, you can see a 20-point shift between 2018
and bonus points if he then goes just like Hillary Clinton before him.
And 2020. Can you talk about your sort of on-the-ground strategy and how that would be different from what President Trump did in 2020 running against the Democrats?
The left is going to throw the kitchen sink at any Republican. You've got to be ready for that. So in 2020, we saw these.
When did Jeb Bush get hit with the kitchen sink?
They're just talking out their ass.
Go back and watch like the election between Mitt Romney and Obama and how nice it is. Like, they're like, I think I agree with a lot of his policies, but I would do something slightly different here. Like, they're literally on the same page because it's before the Tea Party came in and fucked everything up.
These states, largely because of the Fauci state of emergency for COVID, they use that as a pretext to change the rules, the way voting happened. They embrace this mail balloting and ballot harvesting. Of course, I think that that's wrong. But if I were the candidate, I would have gone in and combated that. Either had our people doing the same ballot harvesting or been more aggressive to try to head that off.
But this COVID stuff, right? Like, if you think about it, when the election comes, do you think people are still going to care about COVID by that time?
No.
Like, these are last election issues that they're running on. Where's the new talent?
At how the federal government colluded with some of the tech companies to censor information, like the Hunter Biden story. That's election interference. It's totally unfair.
No, it's not.
But I would also point out.
No, it's not. They literally were taking down nude pictures of somebody. It's called revenge porn. It's a crime. I thought you were tough on crime, DeSantis.
That was Donald Trump's FBI and Donald Trump's DHS that was doing that. He didn't have control over his own agencies. If somebody in my...
The president is not a dictator, for starters.
He wants to be, though.
Secondly, so Donald Trump was taking down the Hunter Biden stuff. Now we're saying Donald Trump is in with the Bidens, all right? He's in with the Biden crime family.
My government were doing that, they would have been fired the next day. And so you've got to take the responsibility as the candidate to shape the battle.
Under my government, no revenge porn will be taken down ever. We will not put out regulations to take illicit criminal photos off the internet.
Battlefield.
Free speech for everyone. Pedophiles and Nazis be free.
In a way that's going to be most advantageous to your side winning. So what I'll do, obviously in Florida, we did it very effectively, but nationally, you look to see what the rules of the game are. Yes, we ban ballot harvesting in Florida. That's what you should do. Yes, we ban Zuckerbucks in Florida. That's what you should do. However, not every state has done that. So if you're in a state like Nevada,
I'm going to really need the Republican Party to just stop saying nonsense words. Did he say sucker bucks? Can we not say, whatever that means, can you just say what it is, dude?
That's a mass mail balloting state with ballot harvesting, and Zuckerbucks, we will have organizations.
Zuckerbucks is what he said. Zuckerbucks.
Holy shit.
I'm fucking stunned, dude.
Oh my God.
In place so that we can exploit that system. If you have it in Wisconsin, we will have organizations in place to exploit that system. I think telling people not to send in a mail ballot is a huge mistake, and it ends up reducing the pool of prospective voters. In Florida, we focused on some of these low telling.
Can we listen to the language here? He's going to exploit what?
People not to send in a mail ballot is a huge. In a state like Nevada, that's a mass mail balloting state with ballot harvesting and Zuckerbucks, we will have organizations in place
what the fuck
so
does that
we
mean?
Can exploit.
We're going to have organizations in place so we can exploit the election.
I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Yeah, that's literally what he's saying. He's saying we're going to cheat to win.
That system. If you have it in Wisconsin,
which is
we
true.
will
The
have
Republicans
organizations in
to
place to exploit that system. I think telling people not to send in a mail ballot is a huge mistake.
People that happens, it's such a deeper issue than just to call out how ridiculous these nonsense baby words are.
Mistake, and it ends up reducing the pool of prospective voters. In Florida, we focused on some of these low propensity voters in my reelection. They usually vote in presidential. They don't always vote in midterm. And we.
Bro, have you seen the random people that he was having arrested for ballot fraud because they were felons or something, and he revoked their status to vote and they didn't even know that they voted illegally?
Cool.
We'll wrap with one of those videos because they're horrific.
He converted a lot of them to vote. Most of them chose to vote.
It's not like they're violent horrific. It's horrific as in a way of it insults my American freedom principles.
By absentee ballot through the mail. That was their choice. If we told them you could only vote on election day, some of them very well may not have voted. So understand the battlefield. It's your responsibility as a candidate to head off that. But every single candidate that we would nominate is going to face this from the left, the Democrats, and the media. And what I've told people, if you nominate me, I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to get it done, and we'll be sworn in as president on January 20th, 2025.
So Governor DeSantis, final question for you here, because I know you have to run. Now, President Trump has threatened to not participate in any primary debates, assuming that he will sort of be appointed by acclamation. What do you make of his threats not to engage in some sort of primary debate with any of the other candidates?
Well, look, I'm a blue collar kid. I started working for minimum wage. And I learned very early on, I'm not entitled to anything. You got to earn it in this world.
You went to Yale and Harvard.
And I think this nomination is something people have to earn. Nobody's entitled to be nominated. And so I intend to earn it. I think those debates are an important part of the process. So Republicans across the country can size up candidates and see what they think. I look forward to participating in them because I think we've got a great story to tell. And I think that the contrast between me and some of
my God, dude, just burp.
He looks like he's holding in a shit.
No, you can hear it. His acid reflux. He's tapping. He has to end the interview not because he has to run, but because he's either the acid reflex is kicking in because he can't socialize this much, or he's got to take a huge dump.
Size up candidates and see what they think. I look forward to participating in them because I think we've got a great story to tell. And I think that the contrast between me and some of the other candidates, I think, will be favorable, and I think it'll help us win the nomination.
Bro,
well, that is Governor Ron DeSantis. He's got a big day and a big several weeks at the minimum lined up for him. Governor DeSantis, if you want to give to his campaign, head on over to rondesantis.com. Really appreciate the time and good luck.
Doesn't that website?
Hey, thanks so much. We appreciate everybody's support.
Alrighty, folks. Monday, of course, is Memorial Day. I'll be talking with Jocko Willink on my YouTube, so make sure to check that out. And then we'll be back here on Tuesday. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is the Ben Shapiro.
We might check that out, Ben. Okay, let me show you these Florida videos.
He really is like the least exciting person to listen to I've ever listened to.
Oh, yeah.
At least Trump's funny.
Now keep in mind, this is the dude who oversaw the force feeding at Guantanamo, right? And then he said, this is how you should be doing stuff, right? So this is the profile we already have, is somebody who's doing stuff that he doesn't have to. He's going the extra mile to be cruel when he doesn't have to. We've already had that established with him. Now, these people were legally told they could vote. They had their rights deprived of them. They've earned their rights back. They were awarded to him. He signed a piece of paper to make it illegal, and then he went and he arrested these people so he could then type a headline on how he was tough on voter fraud in Florida. Ready? You ready to see this disgusting shit, dude?
We got one in this room over here.
Guns out. Cool.
Miami-Dade police, open the door. Go open the door. Go open the door.
Come outside, man. Let me talk to you for a second.
Hold on, put him up there.
Come here. Come outside for a second.
Step out.
Come outside. Come outside.
Step out. Step out.
Come outside. Come outside.
Come over here.
Come outside. Come outside.
Come out. Take a seat right over here.
Come on, see.
Submachine gun.
Cool.
Take a seat.
For voter fraud.
You got to come with us. Come on, put him.
That wasn't even voter fraud. Great.
I'll explain
Vote for me.
Took you a minute to answer the door. You're sleeping? I got another set.
Good.
Did you hear the cop?
No, I missed it.
This is the guy in charge back here, who's in like street clothes right here. This is the Ice-T. This is the Ice-T of the crew. Listen to what he says.
Did you say iced tea?
Yeah, from like Law and Order. I was mocking the guy. You know, like he's a detective. He's got his badge and gun on the hip, right? So he's like in charge of this whole thing. Listen to what he says.
Jesus Christ. 30 years. Unbelievable. Oh, but vote for Desantis. He's a good candidate. Definitely not tampering with voting.
You know, like think about this type of this is some violating the Fifth Amendment or Fourth Amendment type shit. And this is how people die, and look what it's being done over in Florida.
Yep.
This is what tough on crime looks like.
Yep.
And look at how shitty the police, like they didn't have time to like get into like the gear that they need. They had to just get vests on and go. Like they're not prepped for any type of thing. This guy's body armor isn't even covering his vitals. Neither is this guy's.
That's right, because it needs to be like up here, right?
Mm-hmm. This is clearly an undercover. He's got like nice watches on, Dallas jersey. He's got an AR as well. Yeah, that guy in the Dallas jersey.
Little miscommunication. Thought you weren't coming. Thought you were.
You call, we come.
19 people were arrested, right? So this is what he gets for a headline. That's not the only one.
Apparently, I guess you have a warrant.
For what?
I'm not sure.
For voter stuff, man.
For voters.
Just released body camera recordings show officers in Florida making felony voter fraud arrests.
Felony arrests, dude. They're hitting these people with fucking felonies.
Crazy.
We have a warrant for your arrest. For what?
This is somebody's fucking grandmother, dude.
Unbelievable.
In all, 20 arrested following a statewide investigation.
In the pictures we have, one definite white guy. This guy, I'm not sure how we want to profile him if we're profiling people. So And then down here, we don't know what these people look like because I guess they didn't have their images leaked.
Into individuals who the states say voted even though they'd lost their civil rights and could not vote because they'd been convicted on either.
How do you lose your civil rights? How is that even a thing that's allowed?
It's for voter fraud, okay?
Ramona Oliver was one among many who's confused. Yes, she had served 19 years for second-degree murder, but she wondered, how could she be under arrest? Florida had passed an amendment giving most convicted felons the right to vote after being released from prison. She had applied and was seemingly granted the right to vote.
No
She
shit.
and others were even issued voter registration cards by supervisors of elections.
I'm like, voter fraud. I voted, but I ain't commit no fraud.
Well, so that's the thing. I don't know exactly what happened with it, but you do have a warrant. That's what it's for. Okay.
Oh my God.
Last year, Florida Republican Governor Ron Desantis created the Florida Office of Election Crimes and Security.
I don't think there's any other place in the country where you should have more confidence that your vote counts than in the state of Florida, which is great.
But critics charge.
Weird how those people that were targeted looked like they were, probably if you've had a criminal offense, you're more likely to be in poverty because of how hard it's to recover already from especially felony charges.
The crime lies not with vote.
So I think the other, because it was murder and sex charges. So I think the people who were blacked out were probably the sex charges. In the top row were all like former murder stuff.
Voters like Tony Patterson, who served more than 6 years behind bars.
Or there you go. So some of I was wrong.
Rather, the problem was created when the state issued them voters' registration cards.
And that determination was
So
made
it's a
by the
state's
state?
fault.
Absolutely.
And she got a voter's card?
Yes.
And she went and voted?
Absolutely.
And then afterwards, they came forward and said, you violated the law?
2 years later.
Nathan Hart, who served time for a sex crime, is now among those accused of voter fraud and fears being sent back to prison.
I've never thought of killing myself. Suicide has never even been a thought that seriously entered my mind. But there's a lot of days when I secretly wish or even pray that I just don't wake up in the morning because I don't want to have to deal with this all over again.
Kerry Sanders joins us now.
I wouldn't
Kerry,
want to
it's
go to
pretty
prison as a
incredible
sex
because
offender
from the
either.
body cam video, you see exactly what's happening here with the confusion. Technically, these people broke the law, even though they
bad laws.
Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections. But as she was leaving prison after serving 19 years, the Department of Corrections told her, yes, you can register to vote. She said, are you sure? And they said, yes, you can register to vote. So this has been a very confusing situation. And quite frankly, if this goes to trial, well, then we'll see how
of course,
potentially
that's
jury...
not the point. Of course, all these things are going to be dropped. The Supreme Court is going to overturn this shit because it's fucking it violates the Constitution. Are you kidding me? Like foul. And the fact that if we can compare things on crimes and we can point to Trump's First Step Act, which actually did a lot to actually help people and reform society. Like Trump did some sketchy shit with pardons and stuff, but he also pardoned a lot of people, and almost everyone he pardoned, non-violent crimes.
There was a whole thing where people were going to the White House, right? That was like a thing.